Hey, welcome back to Charles on Sports. Tonight, we're going to try to figure out just what the hell happened to the Dallas Cowboys this past weekend. We probably won't succeed, but I'm Mike in Columbus, recovering from a rough day. How's it going, Zach?
I'm doing okay.
I like it, man. It's starting to feel fall-like out here in central Ohio, about 65 degrees today. And hey, that's nice. Can't complain about that.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm having a real bad hair day, so repping the Cowboys tonight, even though they played like total crap this past Sunday. But first, just a little recap of the college football weekend that was. It was a pretty wild one. Zach was on site at the Oklahoma Cincinnati game. What do you have to report on that one?
Um, trash fan base. Uh, Not surprised though, they're Ohio people. Um, Booing guys that get hurt and just terrible. Very glad they lost though. They aren't a fan base that deserves a win. Um, Pretty small stadium, but pretty cool. Um, Loud when they want it to be loud. But Oklahoma did what they needed to do. That was a tough road win.
Hmm.
People will look at it and say, "Oh, 2-2 Cincinnati," but people were saying before the game Oklahoma was gonna lose. So pick a side. Um, I know what side I'm on, and big win for them.
Yeah. The thing is, as we've talked about many times before, Oklahoma Sooner fans are kind of fickle as a group, and what we've seen thus far this season in four victories is some pretty darn good defensive play. Now, it's not defense like it was back in the 70s and 80s when you had Oklahoma teams giving up 100 yards over the course of the game. Things are different these days. A good defensive team these days forces three and out on third and long, and forces field goal attempts instead of allowing touchdowns. So with that, the Sooners have been pretty good. Now, obviously, we got a big game coming up in a couple weeks, but as of as of today, at 4-0, defense has been pretty bright out there, pretty good.
Yeah, just better tackling. Um, Coverage has been better. Pass rush still isn't there, but uh,
Yeah,
you know, but offensively they've been fine since he was a good defensive team. Um, but they need to stick with what's working because they couldn't stop the pass and they kept trying to establish the run, which I get it, but they couldn't do anything. They couldn't cover Oklahoma.
mm,
So hopefully going forward they see what is working and they strike with that. But uh, moving on from that, um, Florida State's overrated.
yeah, I can't stand those guys.
I mean, I'd sound like a loser, but dude, the Boston College game last week, Clemson on a down year. They needed Clemson to shank a field goal and fumble a touchdown to win. Um, Clemson lost that game as much as Florida State won it.
Yeah, I agree.
And
Was watching it, most of it,
yeah,
and Florida State this year. Say what you want about them, the balls are bouncing their way. Every call, every penalty, every fumble, everything seems to be going their way, and that's kind of how things were back in 13 and 14 when they had Jameis Winston back there. Just everything went their way. I don't think that's going to lead to a national title this year. I think that they're going to have some hard times with some challenging games left in the ACC, but they are definitely getting a lot of love nationally this season.
I mean, these guys, I'm not saying they're not a good team. I mean, their schedule, I think their path to Final Four is more clear than anybody right now. Um, But with that said, I don't think they will get there. Um, they're going to drop a game or two, and we won't be talking about them in 4 or 5 weeks. So,
I'm fair. I'm
um,
perfectly fine with that one. Yeah.
me too. Um, prime time finally played a real team. Got ran out of the stadium.
Yeah,
Um,
I think that Dan Lanning and the Oregon Ducks took that game just a bit personal. And both Zach and I, we've been on board with what Deion Sanders has done, Colorado. But I thought that the fraud police were out there lingering someplace, and it really Oregon laid it on. They probably could have scored 70. Makes me wonder what Caleb Williams and the Fighting Lincoln Rileys are going to do next week.
I mean, we saw this coming though. We were giving them all this hype and media after taking down Colorado State and Nebraska. You
Hmm.
know, um, we knew this was coming. Pac-12 is the best conference this year, and we knew this was going to happen. Oregon, they knew they were going to win that game before it even started. I think everybody did. Um, Besides dorks that like to bet, Vegas made a lot of money this weekend
Oh yeah,
off of the
yeah,
idiots that pulled for Colorado. But it's not the end of their season. It's one game. Um, they're going to win a couple more games for sure, but they're playing real teams now. This isn't. It's not a joke anymore. They're playing football. This
yeah,
isn't these bums that they're supposed to beat by 50. It's not that.
yeah. Interesting point you just made. Pac-12 being the best conference this year. We all know that this is the last year of the Pac-12 as it is, but they're top to bottom. They're stacked, and even guys like Washington State, Oregon State, freaking UCLA playing really well. It's
Hey
a
man,
shame. It's a shame that conference is going down the toilet.
it really is, and I mean, I picked Washington to the playoff. They've looked great. Um,
Mm.
Utah with another tough win, but the team I want to talk about is Wazoo, man. I mean, Washington State. Like nobody's talking about them,
Rest in
but
peace, Mike Leach, man. Yeah.
yeah, but um, their offense is unstoppable. They're really good on offense. Oregon State came back late, made it look close,
Mhm.
but that Washington State team has potential to beat USC, Washington, Oregon kind of team. They're
Yeah.
really good. Um, so look out for them. I like how they play. No one's talking about them. Everyone's talking about USC, Colorado, and you know Washington State is really good at football.
Yeah, the rest of the season, it's going to be fun to watch these 10:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time Pac-12 kickoffs. It keeps you up pretty late, but
Yeah, I
it's
mean
fun though. It's fun.
there's big games. Um, that Washington State Washington game will be huge. Oregon, um, they'll play some really good games as well. But yeah, definitely worth watching late at night. I
Yeah,
knew it would happen. Ole Miss was super cocky all week. Um, Alabama dominated. Scored didn't look like it, but I knew they were just going to bounce back. People write off this team, which is crazy. Greatest coach of all time. It's
mm.
Alabama. Give me a break, dude. Uh, Alabama, I think Alabama is going to win out, go 11-1. Um, is it going to be pretty? No. Are they going to change who they are? Yes, but they're going to win,
Yeah, they're
and
going to win.
they are.
They're going to win a lot because they've been proven to do that. And yeah, that's one thing. The other thing about them, more than any other team for the past couple decades, is that they have this willingness to change, to
Mm-hmm.
do what works. And we've seen that all the way up into the college football playoff and national championship games that they've been in. They won't ride or die with a single quarterback or a style of play. They're going to try to do something else in order to win. And yeah, like you said, it's not going to be pretty this year in some cases. And there's some. I think the SEC is down overall just a bit this
Mhm.
year. That's fine. Whatever. There's some tough teams out there on their schedule, and you've always got Georgia probably lingering in the Conference championship game, but discount Alabama at your own risk. I saw this was the first time they've been out of the top 10 in like good lord 10 years or something insane. It won't last long. They'll be back. Going to be interesting to watch to see what they do. Probably heavy running the ball. They still don't have a quarterback. It's worth the crap, but eh, count
I don't
those
know,
guys
man.
at your own risk. You don't know
I
what.
think, I mean, you count out Alabama. As, it's Alabama. Their back is against the wall. You think they're going to fold? Yeah,
No.
no, it's not going to happen. So definitely look out for them. Everyone wrote them off. Everyone's saying end of the dynasty, fire Nick Saban. Those people need to be thrown in jail. Um, but anyways, um, we got to talk about Ryan Day and his elder abuse. Lou Holtz into the game, um, yelling at an 86-year-old man. Pretty ugly way to end a really great game. Uh,
Yeah.
really weird game that both sides could have pulled away at any time, but they never did. Uh, but Notre Dame, I shame on me for picking them in a big game.
Yeah,
When's the
I picked
last
them
time?
too, man. I picked them too. Okay.
When's the last time they've won a big game?
Uh, Joe Montana, maybe. I don't know. Not Cordell Stewart. I think Colorado. That was a Colorado Notre Dame game with Rocket Ismail a billion years ago.
Yeah.
80s, early 90s, late 80s. I don't remember. It's been a while.
So I mean, we've known historically they don't win the big one, but the stars are aligning this year. You have the 6-year senior guy, got a
Hmm.
really good run game, a couple guys on the line that'll go to the pros, good defense, young Ohio State team. Um, it's just coaching in that game, man. I mean, they found what worked. They ran the Michigan blueprint in the second half. It should have been the whole game.
Yeah,
Just pound the rock at them. Um,
there were a couple plays in that game, 4th and 1s, where one of them in particular, Hartman kept. They didn't make it. They make either one of those, they win. Uh, Going on that final drive, the stars were aligned for Ohio State. They get an intentional grounding. They drop 8. Fighting Irish drop 8 into coverage, and somehow, uh, what's his face, the number 2 guy, not Marvin Harrison, the other guy, that guy, he gets wide open inside of 3 defensive backs at the 1-yard line. They stop him. There's a timeout called. Okay, and there's I think 7 seconds left in the game. There were 2 plays. There was the little fade pattern to the right side of the end zone that didn't work, and then the last play where Travion Henderson scored a touchdown. I think that was Henderson. Doesn't matter. The last 2 plays of the game, Notre Dame only had 10 guys out on the field, and that was after the timeout. Um,
well, that's not the story though here.
well, that's how it ended. That's all I'm saying. That's how the game ended.
Well, pathetic coaching job by Notre Dame. Um, that could have been one of the biggest wins they've had in decades. Uh, get a stop on Ohio State, you're up on them, and you have the ball, pound the rock, 2 first downs in a row, and then for whatever reason you throw a screen pass when
Mhm.
you're running the clock out. Save Ohio State, what, 38, 39 seconds. Um, save their timeout as well. And that was pathetic. You have a inexperienced quarterback that drove down the field, drop 8. How do you drop 8 guys and someone's that wide open? I don't know.
That was one thing. The other thing that bothered me about that play in particular is that the Irish have been getting quite a bit of pressure on Buckeye quarterback McCord. And when you drop 8, you're not going to get any pressure. You left him with plenty of time, and I hated that play. Um, yeah, the Buckeyes were sending 5 guys out, and if you've got enough time back there, somebody's going to be open. I do give McCord credit for making that throw, um, but that was just poor coaching and poor defensive alignment there at the end of that game. I do want to say one thing though, for all my fans out there in Buckeye land who know that I can't stand the Buckeyes, even though I live here in the town. Um, that game mattered for the rankings only. For the Buckeyes, win or lose, that game didn't matter. They still had the Big Ten conference, and it comes down to the Michigan game, as it always will. Maybe the Penn State game, but we'll get there. Last thing I want to say about it, I was a big Fighting Irish fan for that game. Really wanted those guys to win, and they didn't quite do it. It was one hell of a game, though. Game of the weekend, easily.
I it's embarrassing. Your players play that hard. You work all year for 12 games, and you have them go out there like that. It's not a lack of execution by Notre Dame. It's terrible coaching. That's just piss poor. This is Notre Dame, man. Um, Ranked 9, been at the top of college football for a
Hmm.
very long time. You can't have that. That's embarrassing.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
Got to run
bad.
the clock out. I mean, we wouldn't be saying anything. They got 2 more first downs, ran the clock out. Notre Dame's going to the playoff right now. That's what we're talking about. But just completely horrible, um, lack of awareness there. Just dumb. Uh, a lot of words you can use for it.
Yeah,
And it cost them that game, it cost them their image, and it's probably going to cost them a playoff spot. They're probably going to, I'm not going to say they're going to spiral here, but the stars aligned for them this year. They had Ohio State at home, USC at home. And, those are tough games, but at your house, got a good running game. It's kryptonite for those teams.
hmm,
And I don't know if it matters now.
yeah.
But it sucks for the kids, sucks for the fans that just ignorant play calling, decision making, lost the game.
Yeah, it's easy for us to go back and look at that, but that was just kind of shaking your head like this. It's like, what? Why? What the hell's going on?
Well, dude, I say this all the time. I bring this up to you. We've all played Madden growing up or some form of a football video game. And you have the lead at the end of the game. You don't throw the ball. You're running the clock down to 1. You snap the ball, you run it, or you dump it off and you get on the ground. You never go out of bounds. Um, that was bad. That was all time blunder by Notre Dame. Um, Shame on their coaching staff for ruining that. And I hate Ohio State. You can tell it how I'm talking, but I mean, dude, that was bad.
That was
I'll leave
bad.
it at that. I'll leave it at that.
Well,
Shout out to Ohio State for making the plays when they needed
yeah,
to, though.
yeah, yeah. Well, okay. Well, let's move on to our big topic of discussion today. The week 2 Super Bowl champion Dallas Cowboys this year, according to everybody in sports media, I come up against a 12-point underdog Arizona Cardinals, who've got a quarterback who never won an NFL game, a coach who never won an NFL game, a whole bunch of no names out there. And what happens? Well, these no name Arizona Cardinal players run for over 200 yards on the vaunted Cowboy defense. Dallas has 5 red zone trips, gets exactly 6 points. 13 penalties in the game for Dallas. I know that they had guys that were out. someday Hall of Famer Zach Martin was out. Okay. Um, Offensive tackle Tyron Smith was out. All right, I get it. What the hell happened though?
That was one of the most infuriating football games I've ever watched. And I'm a much bigger Sooners fan than Cowboys fan. But I don't think I've ever been more just angry at a team and its coaching staff as mad as I was about 2 minutes ago about Notre Dame. That was bad on Sunday. Penalties, penalties, penalties. You know why they lost to the Niners 2 years ago? Penalties. You know why they lost to the Niners last year? Couldn't move the ball, couldn't finish in the red zone. They did both in this game. And it's week 3. I don't need to freak out, but dude, that was an all-time horrible performance by an NFL team.
That was an all-time horrible performance, and you know what? They still had a chance to win.
Well, there's no upside
they
in this.
no, well, there's not. Now, before we went live here, I texted you a little bit ago. We were chatting, and I had a couple things. Number one, in the NFL, weird things happen. Hell, the Miami Dolphins scored 70 freaking points yesterday against the hapless Denver Broncos, which kind of made me chuckle a little bit. But a 50-point game and 70 points, that just doesn't happen in the NFL like ever, not in over 50 years. Weird things happen. You know, I rightfully predicted that we would get to after week 3 and there would be no more than 4 undefeated teams. There were 9 going in. It looks like that's going to happen. There's 2 games tonight. Actually, the Buccaneers and Eagles just tied at 3. The Rams and Bengals play here in a little bit. So weird things happen. Was this just a bad game by Dallas? Were they reeling from their superstar defensive back Trayvon Diggs tearing his ACL, being out for the season, and they didn't adjust? Now, one of those things could be right, but that still doesn't account for all the penalties, all the red zone trips without points, just all kinds of crap there. Now, I want to say one more thing. I'll turn it over to you about this. I know that Trayvon Diggs is regarded as one of those shutdown corners in the NFL. He kind of shuts down that whole side. They don't have anybody else that could do that. Okay, we know that. But all world and probably the best defensive player in the league, Micah Parsons, was neutralized. Lawrence couldn't do anything. Just it was bad. So I have concerns that this might be part of a bigger coaching or culture problem.
Well, that's what it is. It's, penalties, just stupid away from the ball, ruin a 60-yard return. And, you're inside the 20, get pushed back all the way to the 15 on the other side of the field. Mm-hmm. 4th and short, Dallas hasn't gotten 4th downs this year. Kick the field goal. What are you doing? Dumb off the ball holding, lineman downfield, stupid stuff like that. Just couldn't get anything going. It's just, you gotta pump the brakes on Dallas every year. Idiots say, oh, it's their year. I've heard the same thing my whole life. It's not their year. When it is their year, we're not going to know it. No one's going to be saying it. We're eventually going to get to the point where we don't believe. And I don't. But, the news, the media loves to eat it up.
Well, I mean, one thing.
They're the most popular team in the world.
In the world, yeah. If we took a random plane flight to the outback of Australia and ended up talking with some guys out there and mentioned the NFL, first thing out of their mouth would be, "Go Dallas Cowboys." That's what would happen. So they are the most popular sports franchise in the United States, probably in the world. There might be some European soccer clubs out there. Who cares? Not talking about that right now. The Dallas Cowboys are always going to get that hype. They were incredible through 2 weeks. They were absolute trash yesterday. Now, the beautiful thing about the NFL and a bad game is that you've got a whole bunch more coming up. And early in the season, weird things can happen. Dallas has the New England Patriots this weekend. They go out there, they play well, win the game, right the ship, move on. Nobody's going to be talking about their game 3 loss after that. I have some concerns, especially with the head coach, Mike McCartney. He's been calling plays, and a lot of those were like in the Notre Dame Ohio State game, just kind of shaking their head like this. What the hell's going on? You got superstars out there like CeeDee Lamb. You got Tony Pollard. Mike Gallup was back, who should have given them a big shot in the arm. Just they make a couple plays and then they would crash and burn. Dak was off. Penalties everywhere. Just a nasty, horrible, disgusting performance from America's team. And I want to keep piling on them. They deserve it. They played like total crap, and they lost to a team that they shouldn't have lost to. And things like that will make a difference as the season goes along, as the schedule toughens up, and they end up playing the Philadelphias of the world, the 49ers, a resurgent Rams team, things like that. We'll see what Dallas does to try to right the shit, but totally disgusting this past weekend.
Well, teams aren't going to be successful. You don't see a Philadelphia or a Chiefs or a Bengals or 49ers ever perform like that. They don't have those. You don't have a 15 penalty game. You don't have plays getting brought back that are, huge, putting you in position to make something happen. You don't see them going for stupid 4th downs when they know they need the 3. Dumb, 3rd and 10, stop them for 2 yards, but hands to the face on the DN, 1st down. Just stupid stuff like that. That was one of the hardest football games I've ever watched in my life. That was bad. Really poor weekend of football from 2 of the most high noted teams, Notre Dame and Dallas. 2 separate situations, but that was just bad. And I don't think it's going to continue. I think they win this weekend. Really tough bounce back game for Dallas, but they need that. They need a 23-20 kind of win.
So sometimes you need to get punched in the mouth to move on. I mean, through 2 weeks, like I just said a few minutes ago, Dallas was Super Bowl champion after 2 weeks. And they got rocked by a Arizona team who nobody thinks anything of, and they got nothing to lose. Came out there and ran the ball right down the Cowboys' throat.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't really matter at this point. It's about the team moving on. That's all it is.
Yeah.
I want to out.
Yeah, I want to throw out something out there. I was reading. I read the Bleacher Report a lot. Lots of great sports stuff on a Bleacher Report. And there's a lot of fans talking about how the refs screwed Dallas. And there's one thing that drives me absolutely batshit crazy is when people blame the refs for team performance. The refs aren't throwing the ball. The refs aren't running the ball, aren't making the tackles. Occasionally they get in their way, but hey, that's happened. That's part of life. 13 penalties. There could have been 25 penalties called on Dallas the way that they were going. You don't ever put the game in the hands of the refs. That was first said in boxing years ago. You don't give the judges a chance. Okay. Same with mixed martial arts, UFC. Don't leave the fight in the hands of the judges. Dallas put the game in the hands of the refs with all those stupid penalties that they had. You can't do that. You clean that up. If you have half the penalties they did, they win the game.
Well, we can talk about hypotheticals all day, but it doesn't matter. The game's over. Um, it's either that's going to haunt Dallas this season and they're going to be really bad, or they're going to forget about it and play football.
One
That's the
thing,
only two outcomes that there is.
yeah, one thing you need to have in this business is a very short memory. That's for sure.
I mean, it doesn't matter, man. We saw a team win 8 games and make the playoffs. So
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. You just have to forget about it. That's all you can do. You got to learn. You got to not let that ever happen again, because that's about as bad as it gets.
Hey, we got a live update here. The Eagles just got a 34-yard touchdown pass to go up 10-3 on the Tampa Bucks late in the second quarter. Kind of a defensive struggle out there, but
Got him on my fantasy team, Jalen Hurts. So take it.
yeah, Jalen, man, yeah.
Besides that, the Jets are in shambles. The Bills look like the Bills. Those had a big win against Washington. As much as I hate Washington, they look good the first 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So the Bills could bounce back for them. The Jaguars look ugh.
I kept that game wasn't on here. I kept kind of looking at the score, thinking that the Jaguars were going to make some kind of an epic comeback, and I think that Trevor Lawrence, aka Sunshine, is that kind of a guy who can help lead them. But man, good grief, the Texans, they're playing pretty tough out there for I mean, they're 1-2, okay, but they've been competitive. They got a rookie quarterback out there, Stroud, who's making plays, and this is supposed to be a team bottom of the barrel against a very good up and coming Jags team who won a playoff game last year, and they just beat the crap out of the Jaguars.
Yeah, I mean, you just never know in the NFL, man. Very impressive from them. But with that said, you can't overreact. As bad as that Dallas game was, they could still, go 12-5, whatever. The playoffs doesn't matter, man. You just got to keep moving on. But
Yeah.
there are definitely observations you can make.
Oh yeah.
One observation I made is I really like the Steelers because of their defense. They kind of remind me of the 49ers without the playmakers on offense. They can win games just off defense. I really like that from them so far. The Bears are in trouble. They're very bad.
Yeah, Bears are in big trouble here, man. They're not the only one. The Titans are in trouble. Obviously, the Jets.
Yeah.
The Vikings, 13 wins last year, 0-3 this year.
Yeah, they had that coming to them though, with their
I think so.
Plus their negative point differential last year or whatever it was.
Yeah.
All those one-score games are starting to go the other way, and their true colors are coming out. So
okay, so we got about 3 minutes left here. We have to talk about the Chiefs. Big performance on offense yesterday. They kind of broke out against the Bears. That game one loss that Chiefs had is way in the past, and they're on track. Seems like Travis Kelce and old Taylor Swift might be some kind of an item there. Pretty wild. We're not going to waste your brain cells talking about that. But the Chiefs look like they've righted the ship. They're playing well on both sides of the ball, and they're obviously defending Super Bowl champs, looking real good going forward.
Man, you want to talk about the Chiefs right now? Look at their schedule, man. I mean, you said they're hitting their stride. 1-2 Jets, 0-3 Vikings, Broncos. Don't even have to tell you the record of the Broncos.
Well,
Chargers, Broncos again.
Dolphins, Eagles.
That's it.
Bills.
I mean, these guys have it made for them. They got the Bengals at home on New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
They, it's one thing to hit your stride, but to find yourself with a team that has so many new guys early
Mhm.
on, that's really good.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so
I
good for
do
them.
I do think that just if there's any team in the NFL, okay, who they have the QB who can take over the game and win it. It's been proven that the Chiefs and Patrick and Mahomes can do that with rotating cast of characters. I think they're easily looking at 12-5 this year. Um, they're fun to watch, and they're very entertaining out there. It's difficult not to be a Chiefs fan. Lots of teams coming for them. Here, the last couple seconds here tonight, one of those teams who we thought was going to be the Bengals, 0-2. They're playing the Rams. They just kicked off, and it does look like
Yeah,
Joe Burrow is playing. So it's going to be interesting to follow him in the saga of his calf.
yeah. Joe shouldn't have played until I think week 4 or 5. If you go, try to steal one of those games, go 1-3, 1-2. Um, but him playing on that, re-aggravating it, it's going to get worse. And what week is it?
3.
Week 3. How long is the season?
Long time.
Yeah. So the Bengals are in trouble if they can't get his robot leg on him because that guy is their team. Great receivers, but he's going to throw him the darn ball.
Mm-hmm.
Um, really worried about them. I was high on the Bengals. I still am high on the Bengals if they can get this figured out. But their whole season rides on number 9.
Yeah, yeah, it does. And um, it's tough if you're a lot of bandwagon Bengals fans around these parts the last couple of years because of all the success they've had, and people are kind of reeling right now. So I'm a Joe Burrow fan. I know Zach's a Joe Burrow fan. I hope that the guy,
No,
okay, he's not a Joe Burrow fan. I like the dude. Um,
no.
I hope that he doesn't get hurt in a manner that puts him out for a long, long time. If he does, that'd be just a major mistake by the Bengals. But hey, well, we need to close up here. We got about 30 seconds. Just it was a wild week of college football. We'll be following the 2 games tonight, and it's just going to get wilder as the season goes along. Any final words?
Uh, OU Texas at noon on ABC in 2 weeks. It's going to be best game of the season.
Best game of the season, 2 weeks. OU in Texas,
But
and
gotta beat the Tornadoes first.
yeah, got to play Cyclones first. So for Zach, I'm Mike. Like and subscribe, Jaws on Sports. Hope you folks have a good night
Go
out
Cowboys.
there. Go Cowboys. Down with the horns. Buckeyes suck. Have a good night, everybody.